Hi. So math is very sequential, and I'm sure you've learned this through the years. Sequential for us means you learn one thing, and then it just gives way, and it's really easy to do another thing with that, and it builds on itself. So that's what we're going to do here. Absolute value is a function, f of x. When we write that notation, function notation can be an absolute value function. Sometimes we call it that. We have inputs and outputs, the same thing. This particular input or this particular function, I insert a -3, it takes the absolute value of it, and it would kick out a +3. So we're just combining two of our ideas. So here's what we're looking at, what I'm talking about here. This last little slide is going to have us combine what we know about function notation with what we now know about absolute value. So I have this function, f of x equals 2 times, it's invisible but it's there, 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3. We want to evaluate f of 4. So go into my function, take the x out, put a 4 in its place, so 2, take the x out, put a 4 in its place. Notice I'm using parentheses. When negatives start being thrown around, we lose them. Now we take the inside of these absolute values first. So 4 minus 3 is 1. So now it's 2 times the absolute value of 1. Absolute value of 1 is just 1. This turns into 2 times 1, which is just 2. If I insert a 4, it would kick out a 2. On this particular graph, if I insert a 4, it would kick out a 2. That's a point. That's an ordered pair, x comma y. Let's try it with 0. If I plug in a 0, so that would equal 2. Take the x out and put parentheses in its place. A 0 goes in the parentheses. Now we start evaluating. 0 minus 3. That's -3. So we're at 2 times the absolute value of -3. The absolute value of -3 is just a +3. This becomes 2 times 3, which is 6. Awesome. That would be the point 0, 6. That is called the y-intercept, by the way. F of 0, anytime you plug in a 0, that's the y-intercept. And we're going to hammer that a lot, so I might as well mention it now. But that's the y-intercept. Putting in a 0 kicks out a 6. Let's try 3 then. 2 times the absolute value of 3. It's like that. 3 minus 3, is just 0. The absolute value of 0 is just 0. And I get 2 times 0, which is 0. So if I plug in a 3, it would kick out a 0. Our answer really would be here if I just asked you to evaluate, but these are points on a graph because eventually, soon, we're going to have to graph these things. What does it look like? What does my absolute value function look like? That's it. Well, we got one more slide to practice this stuff, and then we're done with this Nearpod. Moving on.